Remember that caring for the needs of your body is more important and spiritually mature than trying to force your body to meet the expectations of a belief system outside of yourself. That's a mic drop moment right there. Hello and welcome to another Soulful Sunday tarot reading. The messages here, however, are not constrained by time, so no matter when you're watching this, if there's something that feels relevant, it's the right time for you to hear the message. All right, I've already pulled the cards. They came out super fast. I am curious to see what messages and lessons the universe wants to talk about today. I've been in deep communication with the universe about a number of topics lately, so yeah, I'm really curious to see what comes. This is so interesting. Yamaya showed up in the last reading I did, and I talked in that reading about how she shows up for me all the time, and she also showed up in a reading I did with a friend a few days ago, so here she is again. What's interesting this time, though, is she actually showed up upside down, and she's in the present position. So there's some extra layers of insight to delve into. Actually just went through all the cards and turned them all right side up. So the fact that she's upside down does feel significant to me. So Yamaya is the ocean goddess mother. She has very significant mother energy. That's what it symbolized in the last reading we shared together. This capacity to see and hold everything, all humans, past, present, future, all of existence, past, present, future. This card is the capacity. In its ideal state, this card is the capacity to wrap everything in love because it comes from such deep understanding. And that's a possible state we can access within all of us. We can access a way to hold people in love, even in the most awful of circumstances. This is a tool of spirituality to me. It's about, I just actually did this in a guided meditation this morning too. It's about being able to zoom up out of the present of this particular moment, contextualize ourselves in the past, contextualize ourselves in the future, understand evolution and growth. And something I say to my classes all the time when I teach this kind of content, when I teach about harsh realities about the world around us, is it's not any one person's fault. Everyone on the planet right now was born into these systems. I'm not saying that excuses bad behavior or that justifies people who do have power and misuse it. That absolutely happens too. But there are frames and lenses of understanding that we can choose to access to, well, practice this Yamaya energy, to practice being able to hold all of existence in the same kind of warmth, compassion, depth of understanding. So the fact that this is upside down to me tells me that this reading is about the struggle. It's about the struggle to hold everything in warmth and compassion. You know, there's like a topsy-turviness that can happen in the ocean, and that can happen in our lives when we don't know how to access, we lose sight of almost. You know, if I'm imagining being like topsy-turvy in the ocean, I recently was in the Dominican Republic and did have the experience of, you know, being pushed over by waves. And when that happens, especially if we go under the water, we lose sight of what's even up and down. And it's easy for that to happen in the world today too, when it's just terrible thing after terrible thing after terrible thing after terrible thing after terrible thing. And it has been, I mean, really since the creation of this country and beyond then, but just backtracking to the history of the United States, like that's been all that's been happening the whole time. So when there are constant waves that keep crashing over us and pushing us down and knocking us into the water and turning us topsy-turvy, it's really challenging to be able to access consciously and to choose to consciously access those other frames of reference of understanding that would allow the actual experience that's represented in this card, that would allow the card up version, the warmth, the compassion, the ability to contextualize what's going on around us from a bigger lens than just being within it and being a victim to it. So there's a message here that's about ways that we struggle to hold something, someone, parts of ourselves, certain situations with that loving compassion. Could be about triggers. Let's keep reading and let's see. So it came for the present card is this one, which I don't know if I've ever seen the sun card in this deck before. Amaterasu is the Shinto creatrix sun goddess, the great goddess spirit shining in heaven, the source of all light and life. Long ago, Amaterasu took refuge in a cave, hiding her beauty and her light and plunging the world into darkness. Coaxed from her cave by the laughter of the gods, she emerged in all her glory and brought the healing radiance of the sun back to earth. Amaterasu embodies the loving warmth and light of the sun, emerging into the world in glory and triumph. She is the assured return of life and joy after darkness. Amaterasu shines forth into your life, radiating wholeness, wellness, creation, and manifestation. She shows you there is good reason to be optimistic, that you are loved and free to express yourself in the sunniest light, and that co-creation and partnership with others is the great joy in life. She encourages you through your glowing radiance to light the way for others. Wow. What a beautiful card. So there's something happening here. There's been past times when we have struggled, we have gotten knocked over, let's just go with it, by the waves of our triggers. We've been knocked over by the waves of our triggers. It has taken away our capacity to hold a broader, contexted understanding of whatever the situation was. Could be personal, could be societal, could be global. But yes, the waves that I was speaking to that can knock us over, those are our triggers. Those are our emotional reactions. And the way through that is to find and follow the light. So when we struggle to hold broader contexts, when we struggle to hold love as our broader context, when we struggle to hold love as our broader context, when we struggle to hold people, places, situations, experiences, within the context of love, that's the darkness. Like, that's the darkness that the description in this card was speaking to. That's the time of darkness. That's the time we lose hope. We lose hope because we lose access to a broader network of understanding why the thing we don't want to happen is happening. We can fall into victim mode of, well, this is just happening to me then. There's nothing I can do about it. We start to come to expect that. That ends up calling even more of it into our experience. We end up trapped, like, literally within the waves, within the ocean, within, what's that called? Like the tide pool, when the waters like pull you down even further. Depression is lack of hope. Depression is lack of hope. Depression is being stuck in that cycle of, I don't see how it could possibly ever get better because I can't access any sort of understanding that makes this okay. But with every night, there comes a dawn. With every period of darkness, there comes a time period when we move out of it. What is it that's your North Star? What is it that is your sun? You know, all the planets in the solar system that we live in, at least, revolve around the sun. all the planets are pulled to the sun. The sun is what keeps them going. What is your sun? What is the thing that time after time throughout your life, when you were in those periods of topsy-turvy darkness, what gave you hope again? What was it that was this bright light? Was it your own spirit? Are there parts of yourself that are this bright light? Was it a knowing? Was it a feeling? Was it an experience you had? A connection? A moment of kindness? And try not to make it about that person or that moment of kindness, but more so, what is the feeling that it evoked in you? Were you able to see and feel the innate compassion and the heart that is within the human experience? Was that part of the sun? There's a quote from Harry Potter, who I'm like not so into anymore because of the author. But the quote is still relevant, and I have it on like I have it painted on some sort of decal somewhere in my house. What is it? It's something about there's always light in the darkest of places if one just takes the time to look around a little bit. And that's what this card makes me think of. Like, yes, there's a lot of darkness, there's a lot of triggers, there's a lot of waves that keep hitting us, but there's also always a lot of light, a lot of love, a lot of heart space within the human experience. There's this thing I've been seeing going around on, I think, Facebook that, I can't read it to you because I'm recording this with my phone, but maybe I'll find it and put it up on the screen. But it's so cute. It's just this like a play on an alien having a sociological observation of humans or something, or it could be from the perspective of your cat, or I don't know, some other species observing humans, and it's these notes about how adorable humans are and look at all these super cute things they do. And you know, I just think that's so true about us. As difficult and as heartbreaking and as like grief-ridden it can sometimes be to be human, it does involve a constant breaking of our hearts and a number of levels throughout the course of our lifetime. But it's also just so beautiful. Like, humans are the best. I say all the time, humans are the best and humans are the worst, because we really are. We have done horrific things. We know this, we see this, we're feeling this. But we've done really beautiful things too. And it can be easy to lose sight of the beautiful things when we're focused and we're too fixated on the waves that keep crashing into us. So there's a reminder here in the present, especially if you've been struggling with some of that darkness stuff, there's a reminder here in the present to find those sources of light, because they're always pervasive, they're always available to us because they exist in the human experience. And not all of us is feeling only the light all the time, that's for sure. You might encounter a lot of people who are not in the light and who are stuck in, you know, the topsy-turvy emotional reactiveness to their own triggers, or, you know, things that are being pushed into all of our collective faces. But we can always find, especially with the internet, we can always find somebody who is tuned into their light. We can always access part of the light that's within us through tuning into the light, part of the light that's within someone else. Like, that's the beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing about being human, is that we all have access to that. We're energetically contagious beings, and so we can rub off darkness to one another, or we can rub off this lightness. We can share and borrow the energy of the sun together. So there's a reminder here for all of us to stay tuned in, to stay plugged into those sources of light, including where and when we can find that light within ourselves. Yeah, I just want to read this specific line again. So this card embodies the loving warmth and light of the sun emerging into the world in glory and triumph. She is the assured return of life and joy after darkness. We had a full moon in Leo this week. I've been doing a lot of processing of some of those darker energies, triggers, grief, guilt, shame, etc. My sense is that probably that means it's coming up for a lot of other people right now too. So let's just really, like, if you're watching this, can you just take a moment to really feel into and trust these words, this message? The assured return of life and joy after darkness. There's always light and joy on the other side of darkness. Not necessarily immediately, not necessarily easily, but that's the cycle of life. So, and it's so synchronistically fitting because we've had so much darkness here in Kansas for the last week. I don't think we've seen the sun for more than like 5 minutes. And then today is the first day we have sun. So as I'm speaking to you, there's literally fresh light opening up in the world around us. So if you've been feeling darkness, I feel this is a message to keep hanging on, that the light is coming, and to find and focus on those sources of light when you do come across them. All right, final card. For future card, we got this cleansing frog card, which also came up in that reading I did with my friend a few days ago. And I just like intuitively pick. It was the 2 cards on top. I felt like these are the 2 cards. So it's just how things like this work out once you practice. Okay, I have some senses about this card, but I want to read the description of this one too. Frogs, let me see if I can get that shine to be a little better. We've got the sun playing in the background, so there's a lot of reflections. Frogs are the goddess symbols of fertility, bringing regeneration and healing. In order to heal, sorrow, grief, and guilt must be released through the cleansing waters of love and purification. You can't make this up. A frog calls forth the powerful rains that wash us free of emotional pain, letting tears come to release the flow of sorrow. These emotional storms bring the lightning bolts which shatter the human illusions held dear, so that what is true may emerge in its own time. The frog mandala reminds you to stay at your center during times of emotional shift and release through loss and disappointment. Through this cleansing of your heart, you will be whole once more. So there's a cleansing down the road for us. This is an interesting order too. I'm reflecting on this order. Because, I might have thought that like the cleansing would come before the sun, right? But cleansing is what came in the future slot. So that tells me, okay, here's what's coming. Okay, so here's the message that I'm getting and understanding from this. When we have been through periods of darkness and have a hard time coming out of those periods of darkness, this reading is telling me that the missing piece has been finding that light. Because that was my initial assumption too, right? Like the cleansing, the feeling of the emotion, the processing of that traumatic event would need to happen in order to then find the joy, find the happiness, find the light, find the sun. But what this reading is saying is that it actually needs to be in reverse. So this is a message if you have been struggling with the darkness and you've been struggling to sustainably get yourself out of that place of darkness, the sun has to come before the cleansing. Like the cleansing is a necessary, critical ingredient too, because very often we keep ourselves stuck in the darkness by resisting the darkness and not wanting to feel the darkness and the things that we don't allow ourselves to fully feel, not just think about and make sense of in our brains, but fully feel in our body and release and relax through our system. We can do that through many practices. We can do that through therapeutic techniques like EMDR, or I don't know, hypnotherapy, or any sort of somatic style therapy. We can do that through somatic practices of our own, conscious, intentional movement to music that evokes that same sort of emotion or experience or feeling. You know, there's infinite ways that we can access and support the body in releasing whatever it is that our physical body is holding on to. That to me is the crux, like that's the core of what healing is. But the sun has to be a part of that recipe. And in fact, the sun needs to come perhaps before the cleansing. It makes sense to me to think about this, because if we're just trying to, you know, like release whatever is the emotion that's attached to the darkness that we want to move ourselves out of, if we just like feel that and feel that and feel that and cry and cry and cry, like if we do that without the sun, if we do that without a bright light to hold on to and keep as a touchstone and turn back to, we're just like really in the darkness, right? Like we're just really we can sometimes intensify the emotions that we don't want to feel by feeling them too much without some sort of touchstone, without a home base, without a broader context, without access to a broader context to hold it all in. Okay, so this is like a very personal mental health reading about the two routes out of darkness, which is finding something you have hope in, finding something that feeds that light within you, because it is always within you. It's just a matter of finding the light switch to turn it back on, balancing that with allowing ourselves to cleanse, with allowing ourselves to cry. If you're resisting crying, let it go. There's a song I listen to that says, tears are healers. Like tears are healers. Take a bath. Let the emotions purge that way. Salt baths are wonderful ways to, you know, I visualize the salt, because Epsom salts are said to help like remove toxins from the body. So I will like literally envision the darkness or the clutter or, you know, energy that's not mine, like being sucked in by the salt in the water and then draining back down the tub. Being in nature, the sun is finally shining in Kansas today. Maybe it's shining where you are too. That's a very healing, cleansing way to reconnect. But the message here is to keep your center, allow the cleanse, and trust, continue to trust that that sun is still there. Okay, I feel like we should tie this together with one of my Earth Warriors cards. I love this deck. Let's get a final closeout message to support and tie up and clarify any remaining pieces from this reading, help show us anything that is in our highest benefit, our highest good. Okay. We got Pachakarmic, nourishment of the soul. Seems fitting, doesn't it? Wow, okay, interesting. Fertility keeps coming up, so things are wanting to be birthed. They don't have to be children. That actually really connects to, I'm deep in a project right now, so there's energy wanting to be birthed in the world. So you might be feeling that too. Okay, nourishment of the soul. You are granted the gifts of fertility, creativity, and earthly abundance to support all needs for nourishing body, mind, and soul, and to live your life fully and be capable of manifesting your divine purpose. Give yourself permission to be nourished. This includes your body and also providing your heart, your mind, your soul with what they are hungry for, meaning sweetness, divine love, and permission to be authentic. When you feed yourself that which truly nourishes you, wisely and generously, you shall become one who can also feed the world for that which it truly hungers. Oh, that's so beautiful. Self-care is the name of the game. And by self-care, I don't mean doing things that temporarily make yourself feel good. Bubble baths, shopping sprees, facials, all those things are nice and fun. That is not the kind of self-care. I don't view that as self-care necessarily. I'm not saying it couldn't be, but self-care is about learning the things that nourish your soul and consciously, strategically, intentionally prioritizing that and finding ways of integrating that into your life. Self-care means being in touch with yourself on a physical, spiritual, mental, emotional level, being aware when you are out of balance in one of those areas and knowing what it needs, knowing how to restore that balance, and taking the time to actually restore that balance. Not that we're never going to get out of balance, not that we're going to be, even keel 100% of the time, but it means self-care is having a deeper relationship with yourself, that you are in tune with how you're doing and you take action based on that account. If you're drained and you're burnt the hell out, you're setting boundaries and you're saying no. If you're depressed and feeling overwhelmed and overstimulated by the amount of chaos in the world, it's giving yourself permission to not tune into news for a while. It's taking a social media break. It's tuning back into the things that light your fire, returning to basics. All right. Explore and experiment with nutritional wisdom which suits your body at this time. Understand that it may change over time. Remember that caring for the needs of your body is more important and spiritually mature than trying to force your body to meet the expectations of a belief system outside of yourself. That's a mic drop moment right there. Don't starve yourself of what you need on any level of your being, including peace, solitude, love, time spent in spiritual communion, artistic expression, and nutrition. Answers are coming for your questions about all forms of nourishment, including nutrition, so do not give up when you are so close to finding your way. Oh, this is such a don't give up, hang in there message. It gets better. If you have been struggling with your needs being met on some level, a blessing is given to help you into more nourishing and abundant situations in all areas of your life. Ooh, okay, I'm gonna send that energy at you. Here's your blessing for abundance and nourishment in all areas of your life. And this card is delivering that for you too. So many human beings around the world suffer from undernourishment on physical, emotional, and psychological levels. Being fed more of what you don't need cannot satisfy hunger. The cells in the soul cry out for what will truly stave off starvation. The quest for the profound, vitalizing, and satisfying experience of genuine spiritual presence is part of this. Food is a matter of spiritual importance. Without proper nourishment, which heals the body, illuminates and informs the mind, and fortifies the soul, so it's food in a number of different levels. So expand your definition of food. It's not just what we're eating in our mouths. So without proper nourishment, we undermine a healthy relationship between the spirit, the mind, and the body. If the body is out of balance and the mind filled with fear, then the attempts of the spirit to move your life in the correct direction will be met with resistance, anger, and defiance. Finding what works for you can only happen as you begin to listen to the body, to your mind, and to your soul, listening as if your spirit were a caring and wise parent. Studies have shown that cows will naturally gravitate to the healthiest and most nutritionally rich grasses. Nature knows how to nourish and heal itself. Our bodies can guide us towards what they need for healing, as can our soul. As we recondition ourselves to listen rather than demand, we tap into the healing guidance of the divine feminine dwelling within all of us. What you derive pleasure from consuming at a physical, emotional, and psychological level will shift as your relationship to yourself changes. rather than it being an act of will to be healthy. As you move towards what brings you authentic fulfillment, it will begin to feel like an act of pleasure. Then you will be turning nourishment into a sacred act of honoring the gift of your body, mind, and soul. So I hear so much repetition with the Sun card here. And it's really about finding the things that bring us joy, finding the things that light us up, finding the things that feed our body, our minds, our spirits, our souls. When we build our present life around that as much as we can, when we consciously work with that to bring it into our focus on a day-to-day basis, that's when the healing path becomes natural. That's when it becomes easier and much more gentle to walk. We don't have to push, we don't have to force, we don't have to fight against. When we can focus on the stuff that really feeds us, the healing happens naturally. When we can find the things that light our spirit and soul up enough to the point where we can feel a sense of surrender, of trust, of faith, the healing happens naturally. It's not something we have to strive so much for. It's something that we have to learn how to listen and tune in and then respond from within. So I feel like getting in touch with our hearts is the key and is the name of the game of this message. I hope this was a nourishing conversation for you. It was reassuring and validating for me, and just a reminder to stay on track and to stay focused on that light, and to remember to keep returning to the things that nourish us, that truly feed who we are on a deep core fundamental level, and trusting that that will move us out of the darkness of any chaos or any ocean waves, any triggers that are knocking us over at this point in time. So I'm sending you love, support, blessings, and pathways to find even more sources of sun for each of you. Till next time.